Okay, so we are live and welcome to Consciousness and the Beyond. We are really excited to be with you all today, and we are really honored to be with Dr. Raymond Moody. Hi, Raymond.
Hello, good to see you too.
Yeah, great to see you as well.
So this is Julianne, for those who haven't met, and I am Prageet. And behind us, you see part of the Stargate structure, which we'll tell you a little bit about in a few minutes.
So we're just going to give a few minutes for the live attendees to filter into the room. And we have people joining us from all over the world, as usual. Good. Yeah, so Canada, California.
Norway, we see someone from Germany in Berlin. Hi there, Trevor. So wherever you're coming from, just send us a little chat in the chat box on the right-hand side. You can type in. It's always interesting to see where people are coming from.
Yeah, indeed. So if you're listening to the replay, we welcome you also. Today, and in this mini-series, our focus is an exploration of near-death experiences. So that is the focus for the day. Prageet and I are really interested in this as a entry point into understanding who we truly are as human beings. So this is really for us an opportunity to explore consciousness, super consciousness, and also the nature of reality.
And how that ties in with the vast experience that Raymond's had over the years. Oh, so look, we've got people from England, Holland, Denmark, Ireland, another one from Germany.
So for our part of the webinar, we'll be actually doing some experiential exploration of bringing in energies that are actually going to allow us to access different expanded states of consciousness, and also to actually bring through some energies from these realms that we'll be hearing about from Raymond. So thank you so much for being with us, Raymond.
Thank you for having me. And I just had a good time when we talked a few days ago, and looking forward to the next couple of days. Tomorrow, I'm going to be talking about shared death experiences. And then Sunday on the program, I'm going to talk a little bit about grief, because grief is very often what brings people to thinking about life after death. And on Sunday, believe it or not, I'm actually going to teach you a method, a simple method, like simple equipment and a fairly simple procedure where you'll be able to go through this. And actually, many of you have visitations and full waking awareness in the middle of the day, and seeming to see and talk with loved ones who've lost to death. This sounds so extraordinary, I know, but it was very well known to the ancient Greeks, which is where I learned about it when I was a philosophy student when I was a kid, and subsequently have developed it over the years. So we now do have a fairly reliable method of enabling people, if they wish, to actually be able to see and converse with their departed loved ones.
That's wonderful. It means that they can do it themselves without having to go to a medium.
Yes, although I will say this, when you do it, it's not anything dangerous. I mean, you can't get hurt by gazing into a mirror unless it falls on you, right? But I think that it's just a good thing to, when you do this, to have a partner there to help you through it and ask you questions. And the reason is, I guarantee you, when this actually happens and when Grandma actually says hello, you're going to want to call your friends and tell them all about it. Well, 11 o'clock at night, they might think you're a little, but if you have somebody there with you to go through the procedure, then you'll have somebody there to talk about your experience when it happens.
So you're going to share that on Sunday?
Yes.
Wow. I'm looking forward to that.
And what's that called?
The ancient Greek word for it was psychomantions. They had these 4 or 5 places around the ancient Greek world where you could go, and they were underground, and they had these techniques of, in terms of your consciousness interest, the sensory deprivation brings extraordinary states of consciousness, and over a period of a couple of thousand years, there was a place you could go to actually have conversations with your departed loved ones.
Wow.
Beautiful. Yeah, that's happening more and more. And it's like more as consciousness grows on the planet, people are accessing these other realms or levels of consciousness or other dimensions, however we care to describe it. So more and more access.
It is. That's happening. And also, I think it has to do with when you and I were kids. You're a little younger than me, but, you know, way back then, people just didn't talk about these things. They kept it to themselves. But now this is out of the box, as so to speak. Nobody's going to be able to put this one back in.
Oh, great. Okay.
Yeah, I think it's part of generally there's more of an awakening of authenticity that's happening, and so people more feel actually safe to talk about these things. Great. Yeah. So let's begin. So I know, Raymond, you have a lot to share. So we're going to actually go ahead and make you full screen, and we'll turn our cameras off so that you can share with our audience.
Great. Okay. Well, first of all, thank you so much for being here and listening in. You just don't know how much I've been looking forward to this time with you. And in the program the other day, we got some questions from the viewers. And so I have some thoughts about how to answer some of those questions today. But I want to say this from the beginning. I, over the course of my life, even though I started life as not a religious person at all, I just know sense of that domain of life. And so I was always interested in astronomy when I was a kid. So I went to the University of Virginia intending to be an astronomy major, and quickly got taken away by the philosophy department because, you know, if you're interested in the afterlife, that's where you need to study, because the afterlife question really is not yet scientific. It's still a very important philosophical question. And I think we have new ways to answer it now. So over the next little while, I'm just so privileged to be able to talk with you about life after death. And I imagine just from experience that a number of you are wondering, well, really, is there life after death or not? Where I have come in my process, I'll just tell you, is, yeah, I accept that there is, because I don't know how to think my way out of all these amazing things that I've seen that we're going to be talking about over the next few days. But at the same time, I want to emphasize to you that I'm not trying to convince you whether there's an afterlife or not. I will just talk about my findings over the years and how it's changed me, and then let you make up your own mind about it. But back in 1962, when I became a philosophy major, I heard about these near-death experiences from early philosophers. It just sounds like really anachronistic, but the fact is, the Western thought that we have now, the very logic that you're using right now as you're thinking about these things, was devised by the ancient Greeks. And the way they did it was, a big part of the input from them was their interest in near-death experiences and in these oracles of the dead, where you could go and go through procedure during which you actually seem to see and converse with your dead relatives. Now, as a person who wasn't religious, this was a hard thing for an 18-year-old to compute, since I had no idea the notion of an afterlife was and still is kind of counterintuitive to me. But Thought I'd talk with you over the next couple of days about the process that I went through, which has now brought me to this point where, yes, I expect there is an afterlife. Now, the ancient Greeks, as I said, were interested in these stories. Once in a while, somebody would just almost die and be revived. And even in the ancient world, even though these experiences back then were few and far between because they didn't have CPR or methods of bringing people back from the dead that we do now. So, but still, they did happen once in a while, and Plato wrote about them, and the philosopher Democritus, who lived about the same time Plato did, was interested in these things too. But these guys had two totally different takes on it. Plato looked at these things and he said, yeah, this is an indicator of an afterlife. But Democritus, who, believe it or not, had figured out already at that time that everything you see has to be made up of tiny little bits that are too small to see, that he called atoms. But on his way of thinking about it, he said there's no such thing as a moment of death. And what he meant was that even after somebody's apparently dead, there's still some residual biological activity in the body. So he had the opposite opinion of Plato. Plato looked at him and said, well, you know, this is real. But Democritus said, no, this is hallucination caused by the residual biological activity. But regardless of what you think they come from, they're pretty much the same all the world over. As we talked about before, people tell us that they get out of their body and they rise up, and when their heart stops beating, they say they can often hear the doctor or nurse or somebody else say, oh my God, he's dead, or we've lost her, or words like that. But it comes as a real surprise to them, because I've heard people say, you know, like, I've heard many people say, I have never felt so alive as when I heard that doctor say that I was dead. And so just out of their body, no one can see them. No one can hear them. You know, one of the questions that came through was about this part of the out-of-body experience. And I've heard it mentioned that you don't really need to be near death to have these things. Prageet mentioned that you don't. Some of these parts of the near-death experience you can have spontaneously or just out of nowhere. I have a friend, Eric Pagani, who is a psychologist and also a concert pianist in Paris. And years ago, Eric was telling me that he was playing a concert, and in the middle of playing the concert, he left his body, went into a light, and had this amazing experience. 17 minutes later, he came back to his body, sitting at the piano keyboard, and he had played 3 passages without knowing it. And so I asked Eric, well, did the people seem to like the music? And Eric is a very modest man, and he said, well, yes, they seemed to, but fortunately his sister was there with him, and she had been to that concert. And she said, as a matter of fact, people were jumping up and down and yelling and screaming, and that it was so good. And so Eric, being a psychologist, said, well, if this has happened to me, it's happened to my friends who are singers too. So he interviewed a lot of operatic singers and so on who described this same thing of getting out of their body into a light, excuse me, at times when they're playing great music. You know, guys, I am such a stick in the mud, and I'll admit it, as we're getting to know each other, I just tell you, I'm really a bore. And let me tell you something about me. When I was 17 years old, I lived in Macon, Georgia, and I had this friend who went to my school who was a cousin of Jerry Lee Lewis's. And So one day we were just sitting together in the class, and Frank said, well, Raymond, my cousin, Jerry Lee Lewis, is going to be over to my house tonight. And he's in town for a concert or something. And so I just come on over and hang out with Jerry Lee. And you know what I said to Frank? I said, I'm sorry, Frank, I got my homework I got to do tonight. So, and I can't believe here at age 73, I missed an opportunity to talk to Jerry Lee Lewis. But that's just how I am. And but several years ago in Spain, I forgot the guy's name, but it's like this rock singer, and they had those police barricades and also. And I had a nice conversation with him. I'm sure you would know. I would just don't remember the name, but he was telling me the same thing. I was telling him about this, and that it's happened to him during rock concerts, that he finds himself out of his body. Somebody was asking too about this phase. They said, what about when you leave your body, are you still in a body? And I've heard this from people all over the world. They say that you just can't describe it. They say you are still in a body, but it's not a physical body. And they find it very difficult to describe. They say it has a form. And one time I was talking to this wonderful man, Robert Monk, when I was still a medical student in Augusta, Georgia. He was a local businessman who had had a near-death experience. And he was trying to describe this kind of body he was in after he got out of his physical body. And again, he said it's indescribable, but he said if you can imagine, like when the smoke from a cigarette is kind of drifting around up toward a light or something. He said that's the best way you could try to explain this. But so apparently you do have some sort of vehicle or a spiritual body, as I've heard people call it. So this out-of-body thing is very baffling, and even some of you who haven't had a near-death experience will no doubt have recollections of these out-of-body experiences. I have a friend, Jim McElhaney, who is an astronomer, and some years ago, Jim was telling me about how, showed me this article about how I gather it's fairly common for astronomers when they are gazing through their telescopes to feel like they're out of their body. They get up and they look down and they see themselves looking through the telescopes. Now, people say that in this body, out-of-body state, they can't, but they can see perfectly. And yet, nobody seems to be able to hear them. And somebody was asking about the quality of vision in this. People say that you have to use the words of seeing because that's the only words that you have available. But this experience that you have of what you would call sight in the out-of-body state is very different. People say that the colors are much more vibrant. You see colors that you have not seen on Earth. And that when, for example, you want to look at something at a distance, it's kind of like a zoom lens effect. I've heard several people describe it to me as a zoom lens. You just focus on what you want to see and zap. It's right there before you in this very clear and magnified almost way. So there people are, they're out of their body. Nobody can see them. They can understand perfectly what other people there are saying or talking about, but they don't hear a voice. It's like they become aware of what that person is thinking, right? And after a while in this, that nobody can hear them, nobody can see them, they become aware that, oh, this is what we call death. And it's at that point that people have these experiences of superconsciousness, as Prageet was calling it. Yeah, that's a very good term, superconsciousness. People say it's like waking up from a dream. That, you know, in the morning when you're coming out of a dream, you feel like you're coming back to reality from an unreal experience. Well, apparently that is what death is like, as I hear from people, that you feel like that this life that we're in now is dreamlike. And so as this proceeds, people say that even though there's no words for it, they're just going to have to try to describe it the best they can. And they say it's like you go through a passageway of some sort, which they compare to a tunnel or a hallway. And they come out on the other side into this very brilliant light, and that in that light there is comfort and peace and joy, and everything is kind of permeated with love. And you meet in that state relatives or friends of theirs of yours who have already died, who seem to be there to help you through this transition. And incidentally, I've known quite a number of people over the years who, in their meeting up with their dead relatives, see there some relative they didn't know they had, or that who had died even long before they were born. One of my students, when I was a psychology professor years ago, told me that during her near-death experience, she saw among the other people who were there, who she knew, her great-great-grandmother that she had actually never met because her great-great-grandmother had died before she was born. But this great-great-grandmother was a fixture in the family, like a family legend that everybody talked about. Also, I had this wonderful old friend. Her name was Vi Horton, and she was one of the best friends I ever had, and had one of the most amazing near-death experiences I've ever heard. And in about 1975, Vi told me this story about a year after it happened, that she had been in the hospital just for a cholecystectomy, just like to have her gallbladder removed. But during the surgery, she had a cardiac arrest and was out of her body. And she said she went through this tunnel, and that at the end of this tunnel, she saw there her mother, who had passed away some years before. But there with her mother was this infant that she didn't recognize. But she said when she saw this infant first, she said she felt that the infant was showing himself to her, as it was, so that she could recognize him. And he said, and then he transformed into a complete person, a developed person. And he explained to her that he was her brother, which surprised Vi, because Vi had never known she had a brother. And I knew the family very well, by the way. I knew her father, and I knew Vi's two older sisters. Well, so when she came back from her near-death experience, she told her father about this, and he admitted, yeah, it had happened. Back in the 30s, you see, people didn't tell their children about previous losses like this, and the first child born to that couple was a little boy who died. And so they didn't tell any of the subsequent as they all were sisters, about this. And yet the father admitted when she came back that had happened, just as she had said. And I knew that family so well, and they really had to, I mean, they saw some pretty startling things. One of them was that when Vi was, during her cardiac arrest, which lasted, according to Dr. Nelson, her physician that I got to know very well too, it was about 40 minutes. He was just flabbergasted. But she said, and out of her body, and while her body is in the room getting resuscitated, she was out of her body, and she went around the hospital, and she saw her brother-in-law. And she was surprised to see him just standing there in the hall. And so she said, as she was watching him, of course he was not able to see her, but as she was watching him, a friend of his just happened to be in the hospital and came by and said, "Oh, what are you doing in the hospital. And her brother-in-law said to this other guy, he said, well, I was going to Athens today to visit Uncle Henry, but it looks like Vi is going to kick the bucket. So I am going to be here. I'm going to stay here to be a pallbearer at the funeral. Well, a few days later, after Vi was revived and he came to see her in the hospital, the first thing Vi said to him was, well, the next time I die, I want you to go on to Athens to talk to Uncle Henry because I'm going to be fine. And I talked with that brother-in-law about this. He said that experience totally changed his life, that never again after that was he the same person. So we're really dealing here with something that is very baffling. People who try to tell you, oh, this is just the brain damage from the oxygen deprivation to the brain. Well, as we will see tomorrow, people have identically these same experiences who are not ill or injured, but who just happen to be there at somebody else's death. And when that person dies, the bystanders themselves have all of these experiences that we call a near-death experience, but they are not ill or injured. There's no question of the oxygen flow being cut off to their brain. So something else is going on here than oxygen deprivation to the brain. And personally, I kind of feel that over the next few years, we're going to maybe not solve this, but we're going to get a lot closer to it. And for those of you out there who are grieving the loss of a loved one, well, I'm there too. I lost my first child when he was 36 hours old in 1970. And of course, 36 hours old to me, that was like 9 months old, right? And believe it or not, back in the early 70s, people didn't talk about grief. So this is something that I'm still going through. And I have lost a number of my friends, that I still grieve. My best friend ever that was for 30 years was a guy named Milton Friedman, and not the economist. My friend Milton Friedman always used to say, there are two Milton Friedmans. And he said, one has the economic solution and the other has the economic problem. And Milton was the one with the problem. But he died on April 28th, 2005. So I'm still going through grief for Milton. I'm never going to get over it. Grief doesn't come to an end, folks. I'm sorry. You hear that word closure, and we're looking for closure. Get real. I mean, I've been doing grief therapy with people since the early 70s, and it's much harder than that. During this time, they're with this light and they're visiting their relatives and friends and who have passed away. Another thing that happens very often is people say that they have a review in which every single detail of their life is displayed around them. In this panorama, you see it instantly, everything you've ever done. And when you review it, you don't review it through the eyes and feelings you had when you were experiencing it, but it's like you review your life through the eyes and feelings of those with whom you interacted. So if you see yourself doing a mean-spirited, unkind act, then you feel the sad feelings that you brought about. Or if you see yourself doing a kind-hearted, loving act, you feel the good feelings. So, and by the way, don't worry about this. I mean, I'm sitting here thinking of this. Oh my God, I think of that thing I did. Well, guess what? Everybody I've ever talked to, thousands of people who've been through this, are in your same boat. And they say, well, that what comes out in your life review was that you were learning even then. And I can see that for some of the things that I've done, but I don't want to wiggle out of the things that I've done to hurt others because, in a way, I'm looking forward to that life review and hopefully to get it all straight. But Everybody who I've ever been through this says, yeah, there's parts of it that are unpleasant, but the whole thing is that you really learn so much about yourself during this this life review. You know, people ask me how people got back, and some people say, I have no idea. They say, for one moment I was there in this light, and then the next moment I felt myself back in my body, and I don't have any sense of transition. Other people say that somebody there told them, you have to go back. There are things you have to do. But they're not told why it is they have to go back. Just get out of here, you know, go back. You got things left to complete. But those who are in that state tell me that in the passage of time, they do eventually see why they had to come back. And then a third group are people who say that they're asked, you know, you have a choice. You can go back to the life you've been leading, or you can go on with the experience you're having now. And not too surprisingly, all the people I've known who have given this choice chose to come back. Otherwise, I wouldn't be talking to them, right? But what they say is this: they always choose on behalf of somebody else. The most common thing people say is that it's their young children they have to raise, or a few people, some other relative or whatever. But it's always on the part of somebody else. People say they don't want to come back from this. You know, an interesting question that came up in the discussion after the other day was, why do people forget their past lives? And once in a while in a near-death experience, in addition to their present life review, people will see a review of one of their past lives too. I talked to a guy just recently, had a very amazing experience like that. And I like that question, why we forget our past lives when we come back. And I think that Plato really had the answer to that. And what Plato said was that it is an event boundary, and that's a fancy psychological term for something that I bet you that every single person listening to this has experienced. And what an event boundary is, it has to do with the fact that your mind puts things into little groups or packages to process. And if you get out of that little package, you may not have access to it. But what an event boundary is, it's like when you're in your living room and you think of something you want to go get in the kitchen, right? Well, you go into the kitchen, and what happens as soon as you go through the door, you forgot what you came in there for, right? And I think that there's probably a reason for this. It's like, the reason is, suppose trying to live the life you're leading now, which we can acknowledge is confusing enough. I mean, I don't know about you folks, but here I am, 73. I've spent my whole life trying to figure stuff out, and I just don't know what life is all about. It's still something that is really, really mysterious. And so I think if even trying to get this life of Raymond Moody straight, if I was being constantly bombarded from issues or images of my previous lives, I think I would even be in a straitjacket much, you know. I think I'm amazed that I've been able to get through my life thus far without being in a straitjacket. But if I had to be dealing with several past lives in addition to the one got now, I would definitely be in a straitjacket. And so I think that's what it is. I think it's a wise thing that we just, once we're here, we just are sort of focusing on this this reality, although illusion as it is. Even when I was 7 or 8 years old, I suspected that this thing we're in is a kind of illusory, dreamlike state, and I'm even more convinced of it at age 73. Somebody asked about hellish near-death experiences too. And yeah, they do occur. They do occur. But there's such a small percentage of them. It's hard to make an assessment. And also they're much more various, or they're different from one another in a way that the positive ones don't do so much. And so I don't know what to tell you about hellish experiences. I have interviewed people with them. Also, I've noticed that the people who I interviewed who had hellish near-death experiences were certainly not any different from the people who had positive near-death experiences. I talked with this really wonderful homicide detective once who was just a very fine man and dedicated. I worked with homicide detectives and forensics for psychiatry for a while, and I know these are wonderful, wonderful people. And this was a wonderful man, young man, who was running around a building, and when they were trying to apprehend an offender, and came directly in front of the man, who then shot him in the head. And he had a hellish near-death experience, but you know, this was a really good man. So I don't know what to think about them. But if I think another possibility is that you might be less tempted to talk to somebody about your hellish near-death experience. I think I would find it a lot harder to say, you know, Doc, when I died, I went to hell. I might have a harder time with that one. So, and I am really looking forward to being with you over the next couple of days, and looking forward to, let's see, we got 7 minutes left. Good, and that's right. And time to get to some of these other questions, which I was hoping for. Somebody asked, why doesn't everyone have a near-death experience under the same circumstances? And I really don't know. But I've been wondering about that for years. It doesn't seem to have anything to do with whether or not you had a religion, or if so, which religion, or anything to do with your educational level, or how old you are, or how young you are, or what your profession is, or what the particular cause that it was that brought you close to death. So I don't know about that one. Back to that thing about the event boundary, I just don't know. This is sheer speculation, but I wonder sometimes whether there might not be an event boundary kind of situation coming out of a near-death experience too, that you might, when you come out of it, it might jiggle something in your mind that it blocks it off for some reason. Maybe it's not the right time for you to have exposure to it or something, but I don't know. But it's a genuinely interesting question to raise. And as I mentioned before, this process to me of coming to terms with these things has been a long process. By the way, I have never put any stock about this idea that, oh, this is the oxygen deprivation to the brain. And why? It's because in my first year of medical training, when I went into medical school in 1972, and I'd already been investigating these near-death experiences for about 10 years. So I went to medical school already known as a person who was interested in this. And my first year there at my medical school, this wonderful woman, a medical professor, came up and identified herself, and she said, Dr. Moody, I have been wanting to meet you because I want to tell you about, she said, some mentation I had when I was resuscitating my mother, and thought that was such a funny, curious little, and I got to know this woman. You know, she was my medical professor later, and just a really wonderful person, and very sweet coming up that today. It's like, Dr. Moody, I want to tell you about some mentation I had when I was resuscitating my mother. And so she took me to her office, and she told me that some months before her mother had had a cardiac arrest, and she was trying to resuscitate her mother unsuccessfully, but she said as her mother died, she herself, the doctor, felt she slipped out of her body. She could look up and she could see her mother's now deceased body down below and see her own physical body. But as she turned her attention around, she became aware of her mother standing there beside her, now in spirit form, she said. She said her goodbyes. She saw her mother recede into this light and being met by relatives. And the light sort of closed off like a camera lens would do. And my professor said she was right back there in her own physical body. And I knew at that moment, this doesn't have anything to do with the oxygen deprivation to the brain, because my wonderful professor empathically co-lived in the dying experience of her mother, had this same thing without any oxygen deprivation problems at all. So I am really looking forward to being with you guys over the next couple of days. Just thank you so much for this, and I want to make myself available. So send in your questions and we'll have a good time. Let's have my favorite thing in teaching is this. I want to impart a lot of interesting information to you, and I want us to have a really good time. Those are my two aims. So thank you.
Wow.
Okay. Is your mic on?
So there's a lot there. We've got the sun shining on us from
Hey.
above. So I'm going to sit back a little so that you can see us.
Sure. Yeah. So thank you so much, Dr. Moody, that you covered so many different topics.
It's Raymond. The first couple of days after I got my first doctoral degree, I thought, well, it's really neat to be called Dr. Moody. But then I got a second doctoral degree, and it's all right. Just call me Raymond.
All right.
That's better than Dr. Moody, huh?
Yeah. Raymond's got a nice ring to it, so I like calling you Raymond. Thank you for that. Yeah, cool. Someone in the chat box is saying, what a delightful man. Indeed.
Oh, thank you so much. And that goes right back to you guys. You're just so wonderful.
Yeah.
Looking forward to our collaboration over this next coming years.
Yeah,
absolutely. We are too.
So there were a couple of questions that came up as you were talking, and they're fascinating questions for us too. So I'm going to just bring Alcazar in, and we'll see what he has to say in regard to some of those questions, and maybe something around what you've been saying as well.
Mm-hmm. So, Raymond, maybe if you could mute your microphone, then we won't get this. We can hear a little bit. There we go.
Okay.
Good. Okay. So, for those of you who are listening, we're going to do something completely different, which is we're going to bring our guide Alcazar through to talk about some of these different areas that Dr. Moody has hit on, because they bring up some excellent questions and also excellent windows into who we truly are. So, I think what we'll do is let's just ask one question at a time, yes? Or do you want to open with something?
Maybe ask Raymond just to mute his microphone, because he's putting it.
Let's see. Okay. Raymond, would you ask Lisa to mute your microphone for you? Yeah. I think it's gone now.
Okay,
Thank you.
Great. And so, beloved ones, we greet thee. 'Tis Alcazar. And for those of you who have not met us in the past, let us just say that we are a voice from the beyond, from that which your scientists call the quantum field. We are guides to humanity. We simply offer our perspective for your consideration. Everything that we say and everything that we imply is for your consideration. We do not say you have to believe this. We do not say this is the only way things are. We simply offer a different perspective. So, from a different perspective, we would like to suggest a little about your human experience. For you have been discussing the possibility of past lives, and if that is the case, why is it you are not remembering them? So, we would suggest that, in fact, you are not this physical body, and your so-called near-death experiences tend to bear this perspective. You are consciousness. In fact, we would say you are super consciousness, and your super consciousness actually resides in the quantum field. A small part of your consciousness is within your physical body. At the time of death, that part of the consciousness moves back to join your super consciousness. In fact, they are always connected. But your human self tends not to be aware as yet to the greater self, your super consciousness. So, what occurs in this transition from the body back into the quantum field? As you have heard, many people experience what you call a life review. And you are absolutely correct. It is a process of learning about your interactions, your experiences. It is a way that this is totally integrated into the superconsciousness. The experiences that people have told about, for example, looking into the distance and having, as Raymond called it, a zoom lens. Your superconsciousness can project your awareness anywhere, any moment. And what is beautiful is that as humanity raises their vibration, as you become a higher vibratory being, more and more of your super consciousness can be within the physical body. And as that occurs, more and more of these various abilities are possible from within this human form. So as we spend time together over this little series, we will say more about this. But we will direct ourselves to some of the questions that have been asked.
Okay. So one of the questions is, why this topic now? This is coming from people who follow the Stargate experience. And I know that, let me just say this also, when we did our weekend workshop in Marin last weekend, both Prageet and I woke up the next day feeling this sense of euphoria as if we had taken another step forward. And a lot happened that weekend. We had scientific measurements of the Stargate energies for the first time. And it was like, yes, it's real and scientifically documentable that this is creating an energy field. But we also had this tunnel of light meditation where Alcazar was bringing through the energies from this tunnel of light so many people experience moving through when they do have an NDE. So with that in mind, I would just say, why this topic now from your perspective, Alcazar?
Humanity is in this process of awakening. The process of awakening is accelerating. More and more people are becoming interested in the beyond. More and more people are realizing, feeling from within, I am much more than this. And yet I'm not quite sure what it is I have to do to access this real me. So why now? because it is so important for people first to realize, to understand this process of transitioning. It is not a dying, it is simply a transitioning from one physical reality back into the quantum field, where you review your life, you decide, what is it I would like to experience next? Where do I wish to be born? Which parents do I wish to have? What kind of abundance do I wish to have? And then you choose the parents, you choose the place where you're going to be born, and you pop back in for another experience. So it is vital to know, as this consciousness on your earth evolves, it's important to know this is what is occurring. Not a concept, a knowingness. As the vibration rises on your earth, more and more children are already being born remembering their past lives. And as that occurs, you begin to get the vast picture of what is occurring here. Because what is occurring here on your earth is a small part of what is occurring within this greater universe.
Okay.
But that perhaps is a story for another time.
It sounds like a podcast episode. So, past lives you mentioned, and some people have been asking, why do we forget our past lives?
As we have said, it is a process of learning. What very often happens is that certain individuals have chosen to incarnate again and again with them, with this small group of people, friends, connected beings, however you care to describe it. And so if you came in and this time your mother was your uncle in your past life, this would be very confusing. So in the past, it has been important to temporarily disconnect from the knowledge and wisdom that you have gained in past experiences. Your awareness, your consciousness is brought into the new life as you go forward. So you become more and more conscious with each successive lifetime. This is one of the reasons. The other important understanding is that as your consciousness evolves, as your vibration rises, then you begin to have the potential of accessing information and wisdom from your past lives. And this is also occurring for more and more people. So it is a temporary forgetfulness. As you proceed along your spiritual development, more and more of you will start to access your past lives. And many who have been doing the Stargate work for a longer period are beginning to have those connections and to learn much from them. Okay?
Thank you. So I would like to know a little bit about the sensory enhancement that happens for people as they leave the body. And it seems static. Okay. So it seems that people see colors that Raymond mentioned. People see colors that don't exist on the earth. And so my question is, it seems that by having our consciousness embodied in the human physical experience, we do actually lose quite a bit of our sensory and superconscious abilities. And I've heard you once say that what we call our waking life, what we call our conscious, you actually call our unconscious, because there's...
Indeed.
So could you say a little about that?
As we said a few moments ago, we would define you as superconscious. You are a superconscious being. and a small part of your superconsciousness has come into the physical vehicle, into this body, to experience this beautiful world, to have the experience of being human, to have the experience of duality. So, when you come into the body, small part of your consciousness comes in. As we have said, when you raise your vibration, more and more of your superconsciousness comes into the body. The senses that you have in your physical body, touch, hearing, smell, etc., the vision, all these senses exist in these higher dimensions also. And again, these start to function as you raise your vibration. So the process of being human is about becoming more conscious, more aware, raising your vibration, bringing more of superconsciousness in. This is why some individuals can already communicate telepathically. This is why some individuals can actually see these non-physical beings in the room, because their inner vision has opened. It is the focus of this process of evolution to actually open up all these senses into the other dimensional realities whilst you are within the human form.
Awesome. So what Raymond was describing as an event barrier that is part of the reason that we forget past lives, part of the reason we forget perhaps who we truly are as this super conscious, super loving being, and this event barrier being like the simplest example of walking into the kitchen from the living room and forgetting why you came in there, is part of the function of the Stargate energies to actually reconnect people to the kind of environment that their super consciousness lives in, and therefore start to reconnect them to that?
Absolutely.
Cool. That's a simple answer.
It was a simple question. The function of the Stargate is to create a rapid acceleration of human consciousness, both on the individual level, but also because all of humanity are energetically connected by what we call the morphic field. An energetic field that is not seen by virtually everyone, but it connects you all. And so by working with an individual, the whole is affected. And as we work with thousands and thousands of individuals around your world, as the Stargate energies and understandings move out into all these people, this touches the whole of humanity. And humanity is growing, is changing. Many of you look at your societies and say, our societies, our systems are collapsing, our earth is collapsing. And we would say, it is okay. What is happening is you are transitioning. The old needs to break down for the new, the more loving, the more caring, the more abundant, the more gracious to evolve. What is occurring on your earth with both humanity, environment is beautiful. It is a transition. Okay?
Yeah, thank you. Another question that is perhaps beyond the scope of this program, but in the life review, people see this panoramic of their whole life, and they're able to focus in on any moment in their life and see it from multiple perspectives. This is very much indicating the superconscious element of us and of reality. So it's not just us who are superconscious, it's actually also the workings of the beyond. And my question is, I heard in this book, The Afterlife of Billy Fingers, that there's actually the potential for it also to be a holographic life review, so that sometimes we wonder what would have happened if we had gone down one path instead of the other, if we had made one life choice instead of the other. And this person in his life review was able to actually see those roads, to see those actually play out in his, as part of his holographic life review. And my question is kind of about the nature of reality. Are all of those choices that we could have made actually playing out, or are they just quantum potentials that we're able to tune into?
This is a good question. They are quantum potential. So this individual that you are referring to was a very curious person. Most people, when they go through this process of looking back over their lives, are so amazed, fascinated, and as Raymond has already said, you feel from a different perspective your influence on those whom you have been associated with. You feel how they felt as you interacted with them. So most people are fascinated and involved in that experience. The one that you mentioned, being a very curious fellow, asked, well, what if I hadn't done that? What if I'd done this instead? What if I hadn't said this to this person and had said something else? What would have happened? And then, in this wondrous quantum field, that possibility can then be seen. So, if you are a curious person, when you decide to transition out of the body, you can ask.
Thank you. Yeah, great. And so, to follow up, is that why you often say, as spirit, you say, we're waiting to see what happens on this your earth, because I know that you're outside of time and space?
This brings in many concepts which are familiar to most, but not to all. You are not alone in the universe. Humanity is the new kid on the block, to use an Americanism. Humanity is the youngest civilization. When we say civilization, we are talking about planetary civilizations. And the universe is evolving, constantly growing, constantly something new. Humanity is the newest level of consciousness in your universe. And so the whole universe is watching, waiting. What's going to occur here?
Thank you. So I'm very curious about these hellish near-death experiences. Okay, one element being that they're far, far more rare, and another element being, as Raymond mentioned, that they tend to be far more varied than the positive ones, which tend to have very common themes of what people experience. And I'm wondering if you can say a little bit about why this may occur to people and what is actually happening.
It is rare. It is not just that those people don't wish to talk about it. It is a far more rare occurrence. The reason for this is that the individual, as they transition, are in a great fear. And so they have a fear-based focus. Fear is a low vibration. Fear brings up from your unconscious all those things that you have been frightened about. Even some of your movie scenes which bring terror, war scenes which bring terror. Let us just say this. If you go to a horrific war movie, your body responds. You see people dying and being blown up and pieces of body flying around. Your body responds to that. Your body, the heart beats faster. The fight or flight energetic is programmed and it is running within you. It is just a movie. But for your body, it is real. So these people who are in a fear situation at the moment of transition, in this lower vibration, they bring up and experience fears from the past, even if they were not their own actual experience, as we have suggested, being very involved in a nasty movie. So, should you find yourself in a fear-based situation on transition, just simply say, I choose to be in love. And in that moment, it will totally transform. And the white light will be there with you.
Yeah, I once actually had a dream, and it wasn't necessarily a bad dream, but it was tedious, and I was about to have to do something that would take a long time. And I asked actually for Alcazar to give me some advice, and he said, "Beloved one, we suggest you wait." And then I woke up. And so, yeah, I guess it's to start practicing even now in your day-to-day life if you find yourself in a lower vibration. I choose love. So, I guess... You have anything else to say?
Okay, I'm back.
Okay, cool.
I think what would be good is just to take a little break so people can have a little rest and take care of themselves, have a drink. So I just want to say to people, don't turn off your connection, stay connected. We'll be turning off the cameras, but we will still be here, and we will be back in 10 minutes, okay?
Okay, so we'll take a 10-minute break and we'll come back for the energy meditation part of this experience.
Yeah, this is going to be great. We've really been looking forward to this.
Really excited. Okay.
Yeah.
So, welcome back, everybody. We're really excited to be exploring this topic because it is such a portal into superconsciousness.
Yeah, and as you can tell, we're going to be running over a little bit. We hope you don't mind, but the recording will be sent to you afterwards if you do need to jump off.
Yeah, so with the meditation experiences, we are going to be sending those to you. And apparently we're getting a little static, so I'm going to do some troubleshooting. So the meditations, we'll be sending you an actual MP3. So
let's just... Okay. So just hold on, let's see if we can do something to change the static key. What are you getting any right now?
Oh, no.
No, okay. So let's continue.
Okay.
Okay, so I'd like to tell those people that aren't aware of the Stargate, we're going to guide a Stargate meditation. And this involves just inviting one of these structures to come down around you. The Stargate, this physical structure, is actually an anchor for a higher dimensional consciousness. And that might seem a bit of a challenge for our minds. But what Alcazar said is that it's very similar to your own physical body. Your physical body is a structure to allow your consciousness to be here in the third dimension. So the Stargate is an anchor for a higher dimensional consciousness to support this process of rapid human evolution. And during this, we're going to be inviting a Stargate to come down around you. So how can that happen? Because the Stargate energy, this consciousness, is non-physical and responds to us individually. Okay.
So, for those of you who are hearing static, we apologize for that. It's not something that we can really fully troubleshoot right now, but I have tested our mixer sound, and then there's no static there. So, it's mystery static from the beyond.
Okay.
Okay. So when we send you the MP3, it will be clear. And for now, just as much as possible, try to focus in on the meditation.
And the energies, because that's really what it's all about. It's individual focus. What are you going to focus on right this moment? Okay.
Okay. So the way that this meditation will work is that we're going to ask you guys to click the music link, and it'll pop up in a new window. Set the volume as you like it, and then just find a place to relax. You can either sit up or just lay down completely. We're going to turn our camera off so that it's not a distraction, because really the focus shouldn't be on what you're seeing with your third dimensional eyes. It should just be on the actual energy experience.
Yeah, to actually benefit from this, you need to be meditating, not just listening. So for those people that are listening to the recording, this is a moment where you can just close the eyes and relax. This is not something to be participating in if your focus needs to be outside somewhere. So if you're driving or doing anything like that, then turn off now and get the meditation later.
Okay.
The meditation is going to be guided by Alcazar, who comes through both Julianne and myself. And so we just ask you to be relaxed, get comfortable, and close your eyes. Beloved ones, we greet thee, 'tis Alcazar. And in this process, there is nothing to do. We will be simply guiding you and bringing energetics to you to support you in this experience. First of all, there is no correct way to do this. There is no correct experience. Some of you will have a beautiful energetic. Others will have that same energetic, but it won't be so obvious to you. And so, beloved ones, we invite you to relax. We invite you just to allow self to be comfortable. Be present in the body, nothing to do. And as we have said, we are going to invite an etheric stargate and the consciousness of the stargate to come to you. So in this meditation, we ask each one of you just to follow along and ask inside, just ask quietly within for the various things that we suggest. And so first we are going to ask each one of you just to ask inside for the energy of the earth, the energy of Gaia, to come up into your body, into your energy field.
And so we invite you to simply ask inside for Gaia, for the earth, to bring her energy into your body, into your energy field, and just feel, relaxing and allowing for the possibility that just with your asking, the earth can respond to you.
We are inviting you to move beyond your concepts of reality. Just to be open to the possibility that the greater reality is more than you have experienced up until this moment. And that simply with your openness and willingness to explore, you can move beyond your prior experiencing. It is that simple. It is not a requirement. It is not that you have to do this. It is not that you have to have these experiences. It is just an offering. And if you can relax totally, then an experience may happen for you.
And so we are going to invite each and every one of you to ask inside for an etheric stargate to surround you. So just the asking is all that is needed.
And so we call for an etheric stargate to come to each and every person listening around the world, whether they are listening with us live or whether they are listening to this as a recording. we invite the Stargate to come down around each and every one of you.
And just feel for the consciousness that is anchored into the Stargate structure is forming beautifully around you right now.
Just allowing for the possibility this can occur. Allowing for the possibility that an unseen benevolent consciousness can support you in this process.
Very good. And so now asking inside for the activation of your etheric Stargate.
We call for the activation of all the etheric Stargates around the world. And now we are going to ask these etheric Stargates to start vibrating faster and faster. And as they do so, they are actually going to shift from this physical dimension into higher dimensions. And so we're going to ask each one of you now to ask your etheric Stargate to start vibrating at the 7th dimensional level.
And so each one of you just asking inside for a strong 7th dimensional energy field, and your etheric Stargate will simply raise its vibration and is beginning to emanate a 7th dimensional energy field to you right now.
So just allowing for the possibility, if you just ask for a 7th dimensional energy field, it starts to be created around you. The mind may not understand, it is not necessary to understand. Just asking with an intention, just really wanting to have this experience. And you might even sense a gentle energy around you. And if you just relax into this very soft, very loving energy, your own vibration, the vibration of your energy field, will start to rise until you too are vibrating in a very subtle way. You too are vibrating in harmony with the 7th dimensional energies. It is not something that you do. It is something that by relaxing and allowing simply starts to happen. In fact, trying to make it happen actually gets in the way. So just relax and be open to the possibility.
And so, beloved ones, you live in a benevolent universe. You live in and amongst the quantum field, that which permeates your reality and the beyond. And yet in this your reality, as you have heard, you are limited in your sensory perceptions. It is like this so that you can experience this 3rd dimensional reality, but with your awareness, with the assistance of your superconsciousness and all those guides and energies from the beyond, it is possible to expand your awareness. And this is how we will be working with you this day. And for now, we invite each one of you just to ask inside for a strong 12th dimensional energy field in your etheric Stargate.
We call for a strong 12th dimensional energy field in all the etheric Stargates around the world. And what starts to occur is your etheric Stargate starts to radiate a gentle 12th dimensional energy field all around you. And as before, just by relaxing, your own energy will gently rise until you are also vibrating at a 12th dimensional level. Again, it is nothing that you do. It is just the allowing. Nothing to do. Just the relaxing and allowing these gentle energies to support you.
And as you simply relax into this high vibrational, multidimensional energy field, your own energetic field starts to vibrate in harmony with the 12th dimension. And you become far more sensitive to the beings in these higher dimensional realities, but you also become far more able to access that which we have been calling the beyond.
And so, beloved ones, as we have said several times before, it is not necessary to have a near-death experience in order to move your consciousness out into the quantum field. And this experience is always unique to the individual, because you are indeed all totally unique. There is no one else like you, never has been. And so your expression and your experiencing will be unique to you in this moment. And so many of you have already experienced the meditation that we have shared, which we have called a tunnel of light. We are going to start with this and then move a little beyond it. But in this meditation, it is not about you going out of the body. No, it is about bringing this energy, this light, to you, where you are, your consciousness, here now, in the body. And so we are going to ask each one of you just to ask inside, to give permission for this experience to come to you.
And so if you would like to have this experience, just saying inside, yes, please.
And so we say again, this is not a doing. This is simply a relaxing and allowing. And so now we are going to start bringing to you an energetic which is going to thin the veils, so to speak. It is going to gently pull apart the veils between your physical and the beyond. And again, just allowing for that possibility. And as that starts to happen, you might sense a light growing around you. Just inviting that light to get stronger. Again, just allowing for the possibility. Some of you are feeling it already. Some of you are sensing it more as an energy rather than a light. That is okay, because you are all unique. And so just asking for this light to come down around you. And for some of you, as we have said before, it feels as if it is a tunnel you are moving through. Others see it just as a vast expanse of light. However you are perceiving it, allow it to be. Gentle light coming down around you, moving out in all directions. Nothing to do. Staying very focused on what is occurring within you. Nothing to do. Nothing to do. Being focused on the experience. Just light coming to you and asking inside for more. Relaxing and asking for more. Relaxing and asking for more. And in this light, you might start to sense the presence of others. In this light, you might start to sense the presence of others. Maybe you can actually begin to feel them. Maybe you can actually begin to start seeing them in your inner vision, not with your physical eyes, but within the light, other beings coming towards you. If you allow them, you can feel their love. You can feel your connection to them. Just allowing for the possibility that these beautiful ones are coming to connect with you, are coming to assist you in an understanding of the beyond. Just invite them to come closer. Just invite, just allowing for the possibility that this can be happening for you right now. Relax. Many of you are experiencing this. Some of you are a little tense. Just relax. Invite the light to get stronger around you. Allow for the possibility that you are not limited. You can experience beyond the veils right now, where you are in this moment.
And we invite you, with your intention, just to invite every cell of your physical body to relax, inviting self to let go into this light. Not that you are leaving the body, just the intention to let go of all physical tension, to let go of all mental or emotional holding on, letting go into the flow of this presence of light, and inviting even more of this tunnel of light, this expanse of light to come to you.
And for those of you who are feeling this more as an energy experience, just revel in the energy. Just feel that vibration. You can feel, you can allow it to be on a feeling sensation level. Always in these meditations, it's not about doing. It is not about trying hard to achieve. No, it is about relaxing and allowing.
And as you relax into this light, we, Spirit and your guides, are going to start to enhance some of the vibratory states of the beyond. And so just feel the energetic field around you. And we begin by enhancing the color of the beyond, the colors, the visual frequencies, the experiencings that you have from your non-physical eyes in the beyond. Some of you will see this, most of you will simply feel. And so be sensitive, be present, and feel. We are enhancing the consciousness of the beyond all around you.
And some of you now may be sensing colors coming into your vision. Again, it is not to try. You are all unique. You all sense in different ways. Those of you who are open with your inner eyes might start to sense some of these colors. Others may feel it more as a gentle shift in the energy. Just be with what is for you.
And there are sound frequencies. They are more than frequencies. They are more like an environment of sound vibration in the beyond. Some hear this as musicality, melody. Some hear this as hundreds of thousands of soft humming voices. We are going to just enhance the non-physical auditory nature of the beyond. And we are starting this right now.
And so now, some of you might start to have a vague sense of sound, music, voices perhaps. The music of the spheres, it has often been called. But just allowing, relaxing even more deeply, and just allowing that possibility to come to you. Each one of you is having your own experience. Each one of you, these different frequencies may touch you in a greater or lesser extent. But just relaxing deeper and deeper and inviting the experience to get stronger for you. Do not be worried. This is the first time you have experienced this. And so you are a beginner. And you are indeed beginning. And you can listen and participate in this meditation again. And the next time you experience this, you may well find it gets deeper and clearer.
And so just allowing your beingness to relax into this energy of the beyond. And as you know, many people have the experience, even though they are out of the body, when they are having this transition, they have the experience almost as if their physical body is being healed and nourished by light and love and the energy of life. And so we are going to invite you now just to ask inside for these frequencies from the beyond to infuse through your energy field into your physical body, into your energy body.
And just allowing the gentle energies that are coming to you right now in all the various frequencies, just to receive them, just to allow self to benefit from these energies, even if the mental understanding is not there right now. Just being open to the possibility of receiving everything that can be of benefit to you. Just receiving everything that can be of benefit to you. It is this simple, it is this easy, just allowing it to be. Very good. And in that allowing, in that energy that is surrounding you, however you are perceiving it, and if you could feel the presence of others who have come to be with you, you can just invite them to share with you their presence, their insight, their message, if they have any, even if you are not feeling or seeing them, just invite them to share with you. Maybe they have something to say. Again, nothing to do. No effort is needed. It is just the invitation and the relaxing and allowing. Because you are receiving in a different way, relaxation is required. You are not receiving in your normal physical senses. You are receiving in your higher dimensional senses. And so, relaxation in the body allows you to receive in these higher planes. So inviting those who are present with you to share with you, whether you feel it or hear it, just invite their loving sharing. For they always have a gift for you if you are willing to receive it. Yeah. Very good. Very good.
And as you know, your superconsciousness exists everywhere. And so we are going to invite you now just to ask inside for this super intelligent, super loving being consciousness that you are to interface with you as you are in this expanded state of awareness. You may feel this as an omnipresence around you, just asking inside to connect.
And so we ask for our superconsciousness to connect to us more fully right now. We ask to feel the presence of our superconsciousness. Just asking yourself, your superconsciousness, to energize you in this moment, just to let you feel the greater self energizing you in the physical right now, in your energetic form right now. Your superconsciousness gently responding to your asking. Yes, I am here. Yes, we are one. We are one. And I am.
Your superconsciousness is that part of self that moves from lifetime to lifetime. It is that part of self that knows the vast realities in the beyond and how to explore them, how to access them. Your superconsciousness also knows that you are not separate from the all that is. And so if you wish right now, you can ask your superconsciousness to infuse you with the knowingness of that supreme intelligence that is the nature of the quantum field itself, that supreme intelligence of the universe or God or spirit, however you wish to call it. Just asking inside to merge your consciousness in whatever capacity is most appropriate for you right now with the beyond.
And just inviting the beyond, spirit, however you can perceive, just to bring their presence to you. And just feeling the energy as it responds to you. Nothing to do. Just being open to the possibility. The vastness of all that is responding to you. Because, beloved ones, you are part of all that is. Having the human experience. And slowly, slowly beginning to realize the vastness that you already are. It is time for humanity to awaken. You are taking a small step right now. And so now we invite you just to bring your awareness to your own energy. Feel your own energy. Feel your own vibration. And just feeling yourself vibrating, feeling yourself present in the body. Just noticing that subtle vibration that's happening in your energy field. Very good.
And just inviting those gifts you have received, that sense of peace and uplifting energy to be with you in this physical reality. As you gently come back.
And so very, very slowly, just really connecting, feeling your body. And when you're ready, just allowing the eyes to come open again. And we're going to turn our camera back on. And so, when you feel like you're really back in the body, we're always curious about what did you experience? How was the sensation for you? And Alcazar was saying during the meditation there were a few people that this is very new for, and their minds were coming in and saying, oh, this is not working, I can't do this. It's interesting for me because Alcazar can be talking, but also internally he's talking to me as well. So for those people that felt like they couldn't do it, they couldn't participate, what the solution is let go of the part that says, I can't do this. And just start saying, I'm open to the possibility, I can do this. Because this is something that's a phrase that Alcazar repeats again and again. Be open to the possibility. Be open to the possibility. Yeah. And so another thing about this whole experience is, what are you focusing on? There's people focusing on the distraction. Focus on the message. In life, there's always distractions on all levels. What do you choose to focus on? Do you choose to focus, for example, on the political chaos? Or do you choose to focus on enjoying your life and living in a positive, helpful, generous way? So
I think a lot of people are still kind of in a very expanded space, but we would really love to hear from you. Some people are sharing already. Oh, here we go. So Loretta saying exquisite experience and energy. Thank you. Bring us more. Kelly saying went very deep and came back just before you asked us to. That's a very common experience. Rita saying, so profound. My dad transitioned 2 weeks ago and our beloved dog the following Monday. They and my mom came through and I heard her tell me, I love you.
Ah, beautiful.
That's really beautiful. So we're going to come to a conclusion. Raymond, if you are still with us, you can turn your camera on and your microphone on and just say, there you are.
He is.
Great. Hey.
Hi.
Hey there.
Thank you guys so much. Thanks to everyone. This is really wonderful.
Oh, great. Yeah, it's been really, really wonderful to hear from you about some of these experiences. And we're getting more feedback from people. So, wow, I felt a lot of heat inside my abdomen. Is that the seat of my soul? It became more expansive after. Yeah, the abdomen isn't necessarily the seat of your soul. What Alcazar would say is your whole energy field is entangled with your consciousness. But the abdomen in Qigong is where your actual qi is stored. So that may have something to do with that. Great. So thank you all for joining us today. Thank you so much, Raymond.
Thank you, guys. Thanks to everybody listening in, too. It's really been wonderful. Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking forward to tomorrow.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yeah. To have this explanation of shared near-death experiences and hear some of the stories that people have told you about that whole sharing the death of somebody close, that they're actually going on the journey with them.
Yes, it happens all the time. I'm sure many people listening to this will know from their firsthand experience what we're talking about.
Great. Okay, thank you, everybody. Thank you, Raymond. And we will see you same time tomorrow.
Okay.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.